I spent hours on crypto Twitter, so you don't have to. Here's what's happening. Thursday was an extremely anticipated meeting of the Investor Advisory Committee at the SEC. By extremely anticipated, I mean like kids on Christmas Eve. Maybe I was the only person or one of like 10 people who were actually anticipating this meeting. But anyway, the second half of the day was all about tokenized equities. A good example of this is things like a tokenized version of NVIDIA stock or a tokenized version of an S&P index fund. These have been a huge area of attention for the on-chain world in 2025. Right now, when you're buying and selling stocks, it's going through centralized exchanges like the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. The apps you're using are brokerages. All of this stuff routes through a bunch of traditional databases and servers that keep track of the exchanges, the transfers, all of these things that are happening. One of the things people are most excited about with blockchain technologies is this new approach to a ledger, a version that's decentralized and where people kind of all agree about how that ledger is operating and can review how that ledger is operating. The concept of tokenizing stocks is about bringing the way these things are bought, sold, transferred, you name it, to one of these blockchain ledgers. It's also about some of the other benefits that a blockchain network brings, like 24/7, global access, all these kinds of things. Anyway, on Thursday, the SEC's Investor Advisory Committee brought together a panel of people in the industry to talk about tokenized stocks. This included representatives from Coinbase, BlackRock, Robinhood, NASDAQ, and a few other large institutions. While nothing exactly comes of this meeting, it's not like the SEC wrote the final rule or shared all of its regulations about tokenized stocks. It was still very interesting. It was a rare opportunity to hear representatives from all these major players talk about tokenized equities at the same time and in the same place. There were two notable things for me. First, it seemed like tokenized equities were just a foregone conclusion. Tokenized stocks are already trading on chain, but the regulatory picture isn't so clear, at least in the United States. But even the panelists who sounded a little bit skeptical or maybe wanted to change certain things about how they would ultimately be implemented seemed to just accept that they're coming and that the SEC is going to give a green light on tokenized equities. This would have been hard to imagine a few years ago. Second, it was clear that not all of these big companies agree on how tokenized equities should work or how the SEC should regulate tokenized equities. A lot of it was quite in the weeds, like specifics about how trades settle or some of the rules and regulations that might go around the specifics for market operators. But ultimately, there was just this kind of vibe that they weren't all on the same page. The most notable one to me was the representative from Citadel who went into kind of like a whole lecture. He brought PowerPoints. It was very professorial in a bad way. He was just sort of like describing how this stuff works as if all the participants didn't understand already. I couldn't tell exactly what his angle was. Honestly, he was kind of hard to pay attention to. But ultimately, I had this sense that he was trying to get the other participants to agree with him in some way. I don't think anyone was picking up what he put down. Actually, the rep from BlackRock made a snarky comment about how he brought slides and no one else did. I'm not sure if she meant it as snarky, but I at least picked it up that way, and I got a good chuckle. So anyway, this was just another step along the road to what seems like a pretty clear path for the SEC to actually take on tokenized stocks and tokenized equities. This is what important people at the SEC have been saying is coming anyway. So I'm looking forward to seeing the rules and regulations that come out soon.